March this year, you received 3 petitions pursuant to Article 146 of the Constitution 1992 for the removal of Chief Justice Gertrude Asaba Araba Sakitokon. And the public was made aware of this fact. Subsequent processes dictated by the Constitution and the decisions of our Supreme Court were gone through, culminating in the establishment of our committee under Article 146, Clause 6 of the Constitution. The nation was further duly informed, and when we commenced our work on the 15th of May 2025, the Minister of State for Government Communications was briefed and notified the public about it. There has been considerable interest in our work, shown through comments and opinions by Ghanaians and international observers as well. However, the committee restrained itself all along from reacting, even when blatant false statements were made about members of the committee and our work. To the committee, our mandate and remit is set out under Article 146, Clauses 7 and 8 of the Constitution. It's clear, and it is to inquire into the petitions in camera, hear the person against whom the petitions have been brought in her defense, by herself or by her lawyer or other expert of her choice, and then make a recommendation to you, Mr. President. As I have said above, 3 petitions were referred to us, and though all 3 petitions seek the same relief, each petition is distinct and would succeed or fail on its individual strengths or weaknesses. Mr. President, without disclosing the substance of the proceedings, and since in-camera proceedings is not the same as in secret, we can state that in respect of the first petition, we received evidence by Mr. Daniel Ofori, the first petitioner, through 13 witnesses. Similarly, the Chief Justice in her defense called 12 witnesses, including expert witnesses, as she is entitled to do under the Constitution. The Chief Justice testified personally and was cross-examined. The committee received about 10,000 pages of documentary evidence from both sides. There were 4 lawyers that represented the first petitioner, Daniel Ofori, and 4 lawyers represented the Chief Justice.
Under the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, it is only the Auditor General of the Republic of Ghana who can determine that there is a misuse of public funds. And when he does so, he goes ahead to make a disallowance. Yet, in 2023, the audited accounts of the Judicial Service contained no such disallowance. Why? Because the expenditure in question was regular, lawful, and covered by the Judicial Service policy duly approved by the Judicial Council. How then can a committee usurp the mandate of the Auditor General and brand lawful expenditure as misbehavior? It's worse. This same travel and per diem policy has existed for years, and all 3 previous Chief Justices under whom Justice Tokono served benefited from it. Madam Sophia Kufu benefited from it. Chief Justice Enin benefited from it. To turn around now and call it a misconduct is not only unfair, it is a betrayal of constitutional order. At the stage of receiving the committee's recommendation, the President had another chance to act as a true guardian of the Constitution. Article 1469 may require him to act on a recommendation, but he cannot pretend that he was powerless. The entire process leading up to that recommendation was riddled with constitutional breaches. By accepting it wholesale and issuing a removal warrant, the President chose to endorse those breaches. he cannot now wash his hands of responsibility. He cannot do so. The President of the Republic cannot wash his hands of responsibility. He cannot say that he was mere a conveyor belt. That cannot be the case. A conveyor belt does not think. A conveyor belt does not decide. But the President of the Republic did think, did decide, and did act. And in acting, he chose to weaponize the Constitution to achieve the politically expedient removal of the Chief Justice.
One saw wrong with that procedure as set out is what has come to pass. Because one, it's a provision that sets very vague criteria for or very vague grounds. Misconduct. Misconduct. I hear you're a lawyer. Misconduct ranges. There's no particular description of misconduct. Your child can misconduct themselves in school by chewing gum. That's misconduct. Chewing gum in court could be labeled as misconduct. A misconduct simply means that somebody, in somebody's view, you have misconducted yourself. There has not been, it's one of those standards, if one could call it that, which is incapable of any definition. And to a very large extent, it is personal, it is circumstantial, it is dictated by so many things, and one needs to be extremely careful. But that aside, well, and then incompetence. Incompetence is also another vagueness, because incompetence, it could be you didn't know what you were doing. But one should go beyond you didn't know what you were doing and go to consequences of it, etc., etc. And then, of course, there's the third one is infirmity, which I could be, one may say, the only possibly objective ground in that provision. And one had always, certainly when I was Chief Justice, I was walking on tiptoes. When am I going to be accused of misconduct? When am I going to be accused of incompetence? And are these and these are not so, to me, they lack the gravity. They lack the gravity that would lead to a grave outcome, such as the removal of the head of an institution of justice.
Here are the vote cast. Solomon Asumedu had 15,235 votes. Bernard Bediakon Bedu of NDC had 18,199. Ousu Patrick, LPG, had 82 votes. I repeat, Asumedu Solomon, NPP, had 15,235. Bernard Bediakun Bedu, NDC, had 18,199. Osu Patrick, LPG, had 82 votes. Total valid votes, 33,516. Total rejected ballots, 303. Total vote casts, 33,819. With the figures mentioned so far, Director, with your permission, I, Eric Osu Jemfi, the returning officer of Akwatia constituency, declare Bernard Bediaku Bedu as the parliamentary candidate elect, MP elect for Akwatia constituency. Thank you very much.
Okay, so yes, it believes that this is how far the good Lord has brought us. You have said it all. The confidence has always been there. It is not just mere confidence out of nothing. It was born out of the good work we had done. After engaging the people, we read their reaction towards the message we gave them. And we saw that it had really imbibed. They gave us a hope, some hope of a sort, which hope has resulted to what we see today. I mean, we've always been very confident. I told you, I don't know whether, I told you guys that we've been in this game for a while. If you are in it and you are losing, you will know, except maybe if you don't want to be honest yourself. I told you what we were working out at that moment I spoke to was with regards to the gap. But as for the win, what are we witnessing? We won. Okay. For me, I've always said that, you see, when you are going to such contests, there are a lot of things you will hear. But I don't focus on tangentials. The focus is on the main ball. My focus is to have my message delivered, the people accept it, and then they take it up and work to make sure victory is delivered. Indeed, you see, some of these comments, if you are not careful, you'll be swayed by them, and then you go outside the main target, and then be dealing with, well, let me put it this way, unnecessary stuff. Because you see, I shouldn't have been in the race as in what? I mean, that I was disqualified, or it was an illegality on my part or what. And so, we've gone past that stage. Development. We've always said that, you see, Akwatia's name has always been with regards to mining. You can't take away the mining, okay? We only have to do it lawfully. That's what we're going to work on. Where we are now is a GCD property. Hitherto, just before John Dramani Mahama came to power, the place was in darkness. If you recall, we did the same coalition here, and we had to put on some solar panels and all, lamps and all that. Today, and it wasn't because of the by-elections, it was even done before. Today, we have electricity. It is the first step towards getting GCD back on track, which can employ thousands of people. There are other things we are looking at. Essentially, it is about development, and we will make sure we deliver.
Elections come with a lot of emotive feelings. And sometimes when people get very emotive, they can act very irrationally. And like you said, it's not only innocent bystanders and political activists who have been caught up in electoral violence. Journalists have also been caught up in electoral violence. I asked the IGP in the early days when I assumed the presidency to investigate the violence in 2020 and 2024. I wish to inform you that last week I received the investigative report on the two incidents, and they've detailed and catalogued everybody who was affected by the violence and what the circumstances were that led to the violence. We've handed it over to the Attorney General, so the Attorney General is going to go through, and if there's the need to hold some people culpable and bring them to book, the Attorney General will do that. But in addition, we have given him the terms of reference to look at what adequate compensation would be for people who have been the victims of violence, including those who died. Their families are still there, and then those who were, some have been injured and are living with injury. And so what is the adequate compensation that we can give to people like that? And so once that is done, I'm sure that if there were journalists involved, they would also be considered for compensation.
The party has a lot of work to do.
Why?
Everybody is talking about unity. So if all the aspirants, now what they are saying is, vote for me because I'm the person who can bring unity, then it tells you there is no unity in the party. It tells you that is the problem of the party now, disunity. Because all the aspirants, the presidential aspirants, everybody is talking about, I'm the one who can unite the party. I'm the one who can unite the party.
Not who to win.
Yeah, all of them from Baumia, Kwabre Japan, Kennedy, Brian, everybody is talking about, I'm the one who can unite the party. It means that is the problem of the party now. So if you ask me, how do I compare the party now to those days, I say that is the problem of the party. There is no unity in the party now.
There's no unity.
Why are the aspirants talking about uniting the party if there is unity? So I'm not the one who is even saying there is no unity. Everybody is talking about if we don't unite, we cannot win. So I don't have to, it shouldn't come from me that there is no unity. Every party member knows it. And it is our language. We should unite, So the aspirants are all talking about, I'm the one who can bring unity. I'm the one who can unite the party. So that is the problem of the party now.
You know, it will be minimal so long as the candidates are from the same major ethnic groups. See, sometimes people say, oh, if you have brought this person, Ali Koni, you would have done better. Let me tell you one thing, and don't underestimate the power of ethnicity in this country. Annie?
Yeah.
If you can bring an Akan candidate in an Akan area to face an Akan candidate,
yes,
do that. But they will cancel out their strength. If you bring minority candidates against an Akan candidate in an Akan area, the Akans will do what they do. Obipe adia kokotoko ayemona bro.
To wait.
To wait. You understand?
I do understand.
And my treaty English is not very good. And they will say that so unse chibe oda and to say unse. The proverbs are there to let you know that when the time comes, these guys will decide based on ethnicity.
I see. Okay, let's wrap up with that.
And then another key important thing that came out yesterday is actually the voters who caused MPP's defeat. It is the supporters of Eneskumi and some MPP people who are not happy with the choice that collapsed MPP's vote yesterday.
The choice of the candidate of the NPP.
7% before the election, 7% of people who voted for Neskumi in the last election said they were undecided as to whether to vote for Kumi, to vote for Bedu or Esumedu. But 69 had pledged their vote to Esumedu, 69. The remaining 24, they said they were going to vote for Bedu. Those who in 2024 cast their vote for Neskumi, they have changed their vote.
Government has appointed KPMG to act as transaction advisor to provide guidance on the future of AT with the goal of establishing a second strong operator to address the imbalance in Ghana's mobile market. The transaction advisor will also access government's shareholding in Telecel Ghana towards achieving the same goal. The transaction advisor has been given a strict 60-day timeline to complete its work due to the urgency of the situation. On the future of staff of AT Ghana, the government will ensure that the approximately 300 permanent staff of AT retain their employment. I repeat, they will retain their employment, there will be no job losses. I have already met with the staff and offered them assurances in this regard. The transaction advisor has instructions to also consider the fate of the over 200 contract staff of AT. I'm grateful to the staff of AT Ghana for their candor and openness during my engagement with them. I'm fully aware of the gravity of the current situation on the workers, their families, and their dependents, but I remain committed on behalf of the government to protect them from any adverse situation. We will see sunshine very soon. It will happen. Let me be very clear, and I need to be very, very clear on this because we've seen media reportage. This is not a merger. It is also not an acquisition. We're dealing with a force ahead of the expiration of the suspension notice tomorrow. MultiChoice yesterday reached out to the ministry and the regulator, indicating now a willingness to comply to address the pricing concerns through a consultative process as was adopted by the ministry with the MNOs during the data pricing reduction exercise. Consequently, we've taken the decision to immediately establish a stakeholder committee comprising representatives from the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology and Innovation, the regulator, the NCA, MultiChoice Ghana, and MultiChoice Africa. I will personally chair the committee. MultiChoice has requested a 30-day window for the committee to arrive at what percentage of reduction will be achieved. So let's be clear. They have finally accepted that there will be a reduction. Now they want us to discuss the level of reduction. I believe, as minister, that we do not need 30 days. 14 days is enough for us to reach this decision, inclusive of weekends. Therefore, the committee has a strict 14-day mandate, inclusive of weekends, to conclude its work and present a suitable price reduction structure for the people of Ghana by the 21st of
Well, thank you very much for tuning in to Inside Pages on Metro Television. Now, this show is also live on 94.1 FM. My name is Moro Awudu, and we have a lot to talk about this morning. In the last 15 minutes or so, we've been treating you to some videos, which is just to set the tone for what promises to be a very, very interesting conversation on the show today. So we do know that there have been some developments in Akwatia. The Electoral Commission has declared Bernard Bediako, who is a candidate of the NDC, winner of the Akwatia by-elections. It was held on Tuesday, September 2, 2025. Bediako, he polled 18,199 votes, representing 54.30% of the total valid votes, total valid ballots, defeating Solomon Kwame Sumedu of the New Patriotic Party, who secured 15,235 votes. In all, 33,516 valid votes were recorded across the constituency. But there are more fundamental questions that we need to ask. What does this mean for the NPP and NDC in terms of their strength, electoral strength, in the democratic or within the Ghanaian politics that within the Ghanaian political space? We'll find all of that out. And, you know, the Akwatia by-election, some say, have been less eventful. Should that be the standard? Should that be the yardstick? Should that be the template for future elections? We'll look at all of that on the show this morning. And also, you do know that, yes, Justice Tokonu, well, she's not a former Chief Justice, isn't she? Because she's been sacked. She's gone. Justice Tokonu is gone, not as in she's dead. She's not dead, she's alive, but she's gone as in she's been sacked. And it comes on the back of a recommendation by a committee which was set up in line with, or pursuant to Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution. Look into some allegations that have been made against her. A committee found her to have, misbehaved. So she's been found to have indulged in stated misbehavior. But there have been quite a number of issues with us which have come up, flowing from this development. We'll look at all of that on the show. Please stay with us.
Ding Eddie baby dapa. Media dear strong crown ebremo. Now the 20 animal with any egg depana me de bremo. And no any some spices. Some spices in here. And wow no bebreo. Various flavors. Ubenya a yakko. Ubenya nemchi. You do good jollof woman and we get there. Ubenya ye do quam. You do for yemu. Hot nako pebito. Na Emma with Gianni. And yet day. When you mean ya. Young con your company now for eka.
Down with your communication talk, you all enjoy Uduba, that Samu spices. What in the essence? Hi. I'm going to get it. Samu spices in a Sabi, Daddy so say. Samu spices, Moon Samu.
Samu spices, Yama chicken.
Samu spices.
In Sanaka in Kitswa, measure 10 grams. Your chicken, spaghetti, garlic and ginger, stew, and jollof, and the flavors alpha bebre.
Samu spices, yes, Saka.
FDRJ Jadien Kratoyatum.
Wabedum, Tamaso. Hey, J. Watch it, na learning. Missy, watch and learn. Makwema Besisia. Abozig. I can say no ya konate and the more drink woman. Hey, but I didn't mean. Oh, sorry. She knew her. Oh, dish. Eddie, Dabio, baby womb. Ready? Hey, baby womb. Ah, Eddie. I'll cause some discomfort. Ah. Sorry, well, uncle, where would the dad? Why your funeral? At to phone for Aerofield Trading. Sorry, it killed them all.
No mum share Nanda Daya was mosquito call is to do woman. Na say spray with them musa. Chaisima a dronum and sana ko dynamo.
And Kratoi FDA Ajatum.
In life, choice is good, but choice plus safety is way better. Your safety and comfort is paramount. Under the cylinder recirculation model, you can buy LPG in a safe environment. All cylinders are inspected and maintained to the best safety standards, so your safety is assured. Just take your empty cylinder to the nearest exchange point and swap it for a filled cylinder. Different cylinder sizes will be available to meet your pocket size. Imagine cooking in a smoke-free environment. This will improve the health and well-being of you and your family. Choose LPG in a safer model of distribution. Cylinder recirculation model, securing your safety, creating more jobs. A message from the National Petroleum Authority under the patronage of the Ministry of Energy.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again.
Yes, mommy.
The second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswati. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late?
Of course.
Star
712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Copy from to Jeb be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter what you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwamio!
Send your God up boom. If you put it to so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Play me for.
It's go time.
We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up.
Call me.
We gotta move on up. We gotta move on up. Now let's go.
Beautiful. Wow.
Decent cross, wasn't going for it. Out towards goal. That's a superb finish.
When it's go time to supercharge your hustle, make it go time for GoTV.
Now let's go.
Love it.
All right, so joining us on the show this morning to have a conversation on the back of the two issues that we've raised. One has to do with Akwatia by-elections and matters arising, and also the removal of the Chief Justice. I do have Dr. Arthur Kennedy. He's a medical doctor, and also, so he's a political activist and a physician. Simplicity. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, please unmute so that we can hear you, sir.
Hi, good morning.
Yes, Doc, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on Inside Pages on the Metro Television.
It's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Let me also say that Professor John Osai Kwapong has also joined us. He's a project director, Democracy Project CDD Fellow as well. Prof, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And good morning to Dr. Arthur Kennedy as well.
All right. So let's do this. And before we move on to our next issue, which has to do with the Chief Justice talk, I know both of you would have to leave me at some point, but we'll try and get the best that we can from you. So I'll start with Dr. Arthur Kennedy. First of all, was this the results that you expected?
The Chief Justice removal.
No, I'm talking about.
Yes, it was.
No, I'm talking about Akwatia. We'll start with Akwatia first.
We're starting from Akwatia.
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Yes, the result that I expected. I think that fundamentally, the mood of the electorate, since and even going to some time before the 2024 election, has not changed. And as you, I'm sure, have seen, I did an opinion piece in which I said that the voters sent us a message, we the MPP, in the 2024 election. And I think that in Ghana, we don't spend enough time looking at the data. In actual fact, 20% of President Mohammed's votes came from NPP members. That 20% will make up about 1.2 million votes. If you take those 20% votes from President Mahama and give them to Dr. Bawumia, he will be president today. It meant that there was a level of dissatisfaction with the MPP administration over the previous 8 years that moved so many of MPP members to go vote for the NDC candidate. So that was the message. I think that in Ablekuma, that message was sent again. That message also has been sent in exit polling. If you spend some time talking to Musa Damkwa, the pollster who got it right as I did, he highlights some issues. Economic, maladministration, corruption, a culture of arrogance and impunity. My candid opinion that after the elections, the MPP really did not get to grips with the import of the message. And I think that the message was also reinforced according to rumors that I've heard by the Okwe Committee report. But contrary to expectations, the party groups decided that, as the saying goes, they will build from top down by going to elect a flag bearer first. You know, people like me pointed out before the Congress that was held that the Congress was farcical. It is contrary to history, because when you look at history of political parties after elections, you kind of reflect on what has happened. You try and reform, you know, and most of the time you need new men or women, new messages and new attitudes based on your reflections on what happened. And historically that happens. It is impractical and unwise to pick a candidate so far ahead of elections. Why? Because elections in a certain sense are about like sports. You do current form. And we know hopefully the Black Stars will make it to the 2026 World Cup. And if you announce the Black Stars team to the 2026 World Cup in January of next year, a lot of Ghanaian soccer fans will be surprised, because they will feel that between that time and the World Cup, some people will lose form, some will gain form. So it is always good for political parties looking at elections to be attuned to what the issues would be. And if you look at examples, you know, for example, you go as far back as 1860, President Lincoln was not that well known. When the 1860 campaign kicked off, he was actually supposed to be the dark horse. By the time the elections were held, he was the candidate and he won. In 1976, Jimmy Carter was elected. If they had picked their candidate in 1973, he wouldn't have been the candidate. By 1976, with Nixon's resignation, etc., he was the man informed and he won. I mean, President Obama was not that well known at the beginning of the cycle, and even earlier than that, Bill Clinton was said to be one of the 6 dwarfs when everybody was urging Mario Cuomo to run. I say all these things to say that current form is important in politics, and in Ghana, remember the PMP were flailing around. They thought the Gala would be their candidate. He was going to run against Victor Usu. They were both old names that people really were not excited by. And the PMP said, let's find a new face. They found Hillary Man, who very few people knew, and he won. The duty of political parties is not to right historic wrongs or do justice to some ethnic group or make somebody happy. It is to win elections. And political parties are generally very ruthless if they are wise in trying to win elections. 1952, the Republicans picked Dwight Eisenhower, who was a newcomer, because they knew that he would be elected president regardless of the ticket. This year, the Canadians picked Carney, who 4 months before, most Canadians did not know because of the issues that had been made salient by Trump. So I come home to say that the MPP needed to do his homework. I think that the MPP leadership has lost credibility on the ground with the masses and the grassroots of the party. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are dishonest or anything like that, but politics is about moves. The MPP grassroots does not trust the current leadership. And it does not also mean that if you went to an election, all of them would lose. What it means is that they need a renewal of mandates from all levels of the party, which will bring excitement and energy and a sense that the party has heard the message delivered by all voters. And then we need to look for a flag bearer. I think doing it the other way around is not right. And the perception is that all these things are being done for the benefit of one candidate. That perception may be wrong, but in politics, perception is reality, and perceptions are very, very important. So I think that the MPP needs to go back to the drawing board, and I know for sure that there are a lot of high-level meetings going on behind the scenes, and people are drastically trying to change the way. The NDC people listening to me, this is a national issue. The MDC will also benefit from a strong, vibrant, and independent MP, make Ghana more stable.
I see. Professor John Osakwapo, I mean, it was always going to be difficult for the MPP to win, isn't it? I mean, first of all, the other position, the NDC has incumbency as an advantage, arguably more resourceful. So really, they shouldn't have come as a surprise to you, or you disagree?
Not that I disagree entirely, but I think prior to when Mr. Musa Dangwa's polls on Akwatia started coming up, I initially was of the opinion that, well, this is a seat that the NPP won in 2024, notwithstanding the NDC challenge to the late MP Kumi being declared the winner. And, the court process is ongoing. But in general, I said, well, this is a seat that the NPP won in 2024. It's been only a couple of months. So initially I said, well, they are more likely to, hold on to their seat. Sometimes also based on the fact that an unfortunate, loss of life, maybe there will be some sympathy for the party, etc., etc. But then when the Global Info Analytics poll came out, that is when I said, well, this is going to look a lot more competitive, with the NDC having the edge. I mean, as you would know, Mr. Musa Dangwa has been doing some very good work around polling. And whilst the science of polling is not an exact science, it also has very strong signals for what voters intend to do. So eventually, when I saw the outcome, then I said, well, I'm not too surprised. But there is also something that Dr. Kennedy said that I also want to reiterate, which is what is happening on the ground. So if you look at Afrobarometer between 2017 and 2024, and you look at the question of which party do you feel close to, you see a change in the trajectory. I mean, if you stretch it back to 1999, the first round, back then, more Ghanaians said they felt close to the NDC than the NPP. But in subsequent rounds, even in years when the NDC was in power, even in years when the NPP would lose an election like 2008 and 2012, still more Ghanaians expressed feeling close to the NPP as a political party than their main rivals, the NDC. But you see a shift in 2024. It may be episodic, it may be temporary, but I also think that there's something going on in terms of the political landscape that as a political party, the NPP needs to pay attention to. So let me give you just like two quick examples. So if you look at 2017, right, by geographic location, the MPP held an edge over the NDC, 70% to 27% among Ghanaians who live in urban areas. By 2024, the NDC had closed that gap to just 3 percentage points, 50-47. If you look at rural areas, MPP held a 61 to 37 advantage. In 2024, NDC is now holding a 56 to 42% advantage. And you see that across some significant demographic groups. So there's that shift in the political landscape, and I think it will do the MPP some good to begin to reflect on what their 8 years of being in power and their heavy defeat in 2024 is doing to how Ghanaians feel about the party. And the sooner they did that, I think it would serve the party well.
Dr. Kennedy, you talked about leadership, except that you talked about how the party, there's some folks within the party who are hell-bent or are determined to impose a leader on the new patriotic party. Now, flowing from that argument that you posit, there are those who say that, look, one of the reasons why the MPP struggled in these elections is because the party doesn't have a leader, okay? Leader as it doesn't have a flag bearer. And so it then now makes a lot of sense that the party elects a leader now as in the January 31st stated date is brilliant, is wise, and is politically smart. Because if a by-elections happens and you don't have a leader, it is very, very difficult to galvanize your people, to rally the people, to be able to make a more, what do you call it, to put up a better performance. Doc?
That argument is bull, actually. The truth of the matter is that the MPP doesn't need a leader as in a presidential candidate. It needs to find its purpose, to reconnect to its founding ideals, and to reconnect to its grassroots. One can theoretically argue that instead of one presidential candidate driving the by-election, when you have 5 declared candidates, all with resources, trying to energize the base and show that they can be good presidential candidates, that should bring more energy. But it didn't. And the reason why it didn't is that, let me tell you what somebody who was planning to flag bearer aspirant told me. He said, people told him that the MPP Congress was like a funeral. You know, people are going through the motions. If you look at my opinion piece just before then, and when I write, I do a lot of research in the background before I write. I indicated that both former presidents, living former presidents, were unhappy with the Congress, but they made noise.
Well, it looks like we have a bit of a challenge with our Zoom connection. We'll try and work on that as quickly as we can so that we can get Dr. Kennedy back on. We need to continue that conversation on the Akwatia by-election and matters arising. I wanted to find out from him whether he thought that the fact that the MPP didn't have a leader around which the rank and file of the party can coalesce around may have also contributed to a very significant extent, or to a very large extent, why they didn't perform so well, so impressively in the Akwatia by-elections. And that's what he was attempting to respond to when we had that bit of a technical glitch. We'll try and sort it out as quickly as possible. And also that Dr. Osai-Kwapon, do we have a better connection with you? Okay. All right. So we seem to have a bit of a challenge. But we would also, beyond this conversation, we're looking at the matter of the Chief Justice. As I did indicate, she's gone. She's no more the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana. It is because a committee which has been set up, pursuant to Article 146, has recommended so. And so she's no more the Chief Justice of this country. But she's not going to give up. She is fighting on. She's fighting the process in a court outside of this country. She's fighting it in the ECOWAS court because she still believes that she's done nothing wrong to sort of warrant the sort of verdict which has been pronounced against her. So we'll come back to that matter shortly. Doc, I'm told that we have you back. Hello, Doc.
Yes, I didn't know I was.
Sorry. We had a bit of a technical challenge, but we're back now. Thank you.
Okay, so what did you miss?
Right, you were talking about the leadership challenge, and you were actually citing an article that someone apparently has sent to you to sort of dismiss this whole, argument that, look, the NPP didn't do well in Akwatia because they didn't have a flag bearer.
Okay, so my point is that argument is bull. And the reason that argument is bull is that I think that the MPP is demoralized on the ground. And the evidence is part of what Prof. Kwapon has said and part of what I said earlier. When you have 20% of John Mohammed's votes coming from good, die-hard MPP members, it means the party is in trouble. And the people who did that, they are not disloyal. They were just Ghanaians and they felt like, no, our government has not been good. I think that after the elections, we've never dealt with the sense of alienation and what Boache Dakun called the people who have resigned in their hearts. Yes, a few people who are bold will stand up and talk and be dismissed or ostracized or whatever. But the truth of the matter is that when John Mahama gets 20% of his votes from your members, they are unhappy. Why are they unhappy? They thought our government was corrupt. They thought our leaders were arrogant. They didn't listen to anybody. They thought that there was too much nepotism. We need to address those things so that the people on the ground will feel reassured. And I would argue theoretically that if you have 5 declared candidates who are all vying for black bearership, descending on Akwatia to show their stuff, it should bring the party more energy than one flag bearer. But there was no such energy because people are demoralized. And I refer to the fact that before my opinion piece ahead of the party's congress, I laid out, because I got a lot of information, that the 2 former presidents were said to be unhappy. In the end, they decided not to go public. There was a group of elders, don't want to call them the former council of elders, who were unhappy. In the end, they waited and decided not to wash our dirty linen in public. And of the declared aspirants, I have it on authority that only one of them was happy with the Congress that they were going to have. And indeed, one delegate described it as a funeral. So there was no energy and optimism and sense of renewal there. This is not the MPP as we knew it. And before we can return to that MPP, we need new men, new attitudes, and some humility, a sense that we have let people down and will do better. But that sense seems to be lacking. And until we rediscover that, we are heading for trouble. That is what the problem of the MPP is.
Sorry. Now, Professor John Osakwapo, now, since these elections were declared, there are 2 schools of thought that have emerged within the new Patriotic Party as we see it here at Metro Television. It appears that, one, there's a first school of thought that says, well, this is normal. It's incumbency advantage. We're going to struggle to win anyway. I mean, if you look at almost all the by-elections, the governments in power have won more than they've lost. So yes, it's one of those things. We'll come out stronger. We only need to get a flag bearer and we'll be fine. That's one school of thought. There's another school of thought that said, look, when you do a critical analysis, and that's where it appears that Dr. Arthur Kennedy belongs to that school of thought. So when you do a critical analysis of what's happening to what happened with the Akwatia by-elections, it reflects, or it is actually an indication of a deeper crisis that the new Patriotic Party finds itself that perhaps they don't even know. So for them, the future of the party appears to be hanging in the balance. I mean, where do you stand from where you sit as an observer and, of course, an objective analyst as far as Ghana's political landscape is concerned?
I share Dr. Abakene's sentiments on the second school of thought. Yes, incumbency advantage can play into the hands of these things. Yes, incumbents have won more by-elections than the opposition parties. But I lean more towards the second school of thought because, again, if you look at the nature of the NPP's loss in 2024, and if you peruse the data into more details, even beyond Afrobarometer, some of the things that Mr. Musa Dankwa is finding in his polls beyond voter intentions, looking at party affiliation, looking at demographics, looking at some of the exit polling that he tried to do, there is a lot more that is pointing to something in the political landscape where it is signaling to the NPP, in my opinion, that they really need to learn fully the lessons of 2024. Sometimes, and I don't know what is in the Michael Quay report because it's not been made public, but when I listen to some of their public commentary, I'm not sure if they've gotten to the point of fully appreciating what happened in 2024 and fully appreciating some of the changing dynamics in the political landscape that some of us are seeing either in Mr. Musa Dankwa's polling or we're seeing in the Afrobarometer. And I reiterate the point that for me, the party needs to embrace the second school of thought and it needs to begin to do a deep, honest introspection of all of these changes that are occurring and then begin to ask themselves, how do we move forward in such a way that we can regain some of that, or should I say a lot of that lost trust and goodwill that Ghanaians showed them in the 2016 election, which by the time we got to 2024 had almost or completely evaporated.
All right. Well, before we before we end this conversation, I made an observation, and I thought it was quite interesting. Some of the constituents who were spoken to ahead of the elections, when the media was trying to find out from them what would inform their voting choices. I mean, interestingly, they said, "Look, the NDC chap is a lawyer. We want someone who can serve as a role model to our people. We want our children to become lawyers. We don't want the other guy who is into mining. We don't want the other children to be miners." Of course, they termed it as Galamsey, even though, yes, the MPP chap is not into Galamsey, but they said, well, he's into Galamsey. And so we're looking for a role model that's even beyond the bread and they're talking about the brick and mortar aspects of things, which is development. I mean, what do you make of that? It wasn't just one person. It was quite a number of them. What's happening to our voters?
Voters are motivated by different reasons. Someone goes to the poll to vote purely based on party affiliation. So regardless of who is on the ticket for their party, they will still stick with their party. Some voters, as you said, is the bread and butter issues. For some voters, it could be the issue that you're pointing out, which is, I want an MP that my children, my cousins, my nephews, nieces can look up to and aspire to want to be like. So all of those factors, for me, come into play in deciding how a voter chooses to cast his or her vote. But beyond that is still the bigger issue of the things that particularly the NPP as a party needs to confront and quote unquote fix between now and 2028 if they hope to win another national election. I think the 2024 exposed a lot of fault lines for the party that they need to spend time trying to fix those fault lines and get back into the good books of the Ghanaians that they lost. I mean, as Dr. Kennedy said, it is concerning that almost a quarter of your identified party sympathizers would cross over and vote for the candidate of your main political rival. That for me is concerning, right? That your own party people would even be inclined to cross over and choose your rival over you.
Do you think that Akwatia by-elections is perhaps an indication of what could possibly happen in 2028?
I'm not sure I would stretch it that far, but I would also say that there are lessons for the for the MPP to learn from. I think when you lose an election and you don't learn the right lessons from it, it can be demoralizing to your party faithfuls and those who sympathize with your party. So for the MPP, that is the sort of signal for them, which is how do you quickly recover, learning all the right lessons so that your party members, your party faithfuls, other sympathizers don't begin to feel too demoralized. For the NDC, it gives them a boost. Anytime you win an election, it validates, or at least it gives you the opportunity to validate certain assertions that you make about your political party. One of the things I see some of my NDC friends write on social media is that their party has become the most attractive brand in Ghana's politics today. And so a win like this in Akwatia becomes one of the things they can seize on to validate that narrative, boost morale, energize them, and keep going. Now, 2028 is still 3 years ahead, but again, these things can energize you or these things can demoralize you. And that, for me, is what both parties need to be looking out for, especially the NPP, since they were the losing party for a seat that they won just 8-9 months ago.
Dr. Kennedy, my penultimate question to you. This election, from where you sit, is that an indication of anything to happen going forward, 2028, in mind?
Yes and no. Let me begin by saying that I think that the heroes of our fourth republic have been general election voters. They have been pragmatic and patriotic. When you look at 1992, they thought that they needed continuity, so they gave Rawlings 2 mandates so they could gradually ease him out. Then in 2000, they swung to the MPP. By 2008, they went back to the NDC. So they've been voting for change. Unfortunately, the problem is that the politicians have not been delivering change. So I admire our general election voters that they've been very patriotic and looking to the national interest. And I think that their loyalty to our parties have been waning. They are now very pragmatic. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I don't think Akwatia prediction as much as it is a reinforcement. I think Akwatia is just doubling down on the message of 2024. It is just, you didn't hear us, by the way. That is where we still are. And I think that the MPP will do very well to hear the lessons of 2024 re-echoed by Akwatia and the Michael Quay report.
I see. Well, unfortunately, the Michael Quay report is all in the hands of the national chairman, we're told. Nobody else has it. Even though I don't know where you stand, whether it should be made public for members of the party to sort of internalize the content so they know exactly what has happened to the party and what role they ought to play in real building it. I don't know. But it appears that Professor John Osakwapo, this election has been less eventful, for want of a better word. The kinds of chaos that we saw in previous, by-elections, or disturbances, let me put it that way, in previous by-elections, didn't rear its ugly head in this particular one. Do you think this should be the standard? Should be this the template going forward?
Yes, in the sense that we all want peaceful, violent-free elections. I think whilst we like to describe some of the violence that we see in every election, no matter how limited, as there were scattered incidents of electoral violence, I sometimes worry that if we don't give it the necessary attention, we would get to a point where we start normalizing electoral violence as part of the process. So for me, it's a good thing that you can finish an election with almost no recorded incidents of electoral violence that mars the beauty of it and undermines the integrity of your election architecture. I believe that the heavy presence of the police contributed to that. I know there's been some people who have raised concerns and worries that if you look at the number of police officers that were deployed to Akwatia in relation to the size of the constituency and the number of voters, that kind of presence can cause an intimidating factor, or voters may sort of feel intimidated and may not feel free to want to come out and vote. But if you have no intentions of engaging in any kinds of political mischief, then the presence of security forces should not bother you. You go out, you vote, come back, observe counting, you go, end of story. And so for me, yes, if we can maintain, Akwatia and other places where generally our elections have been peaceful as the kinds of things we want to emulate, it will be very good for us. Now, on a national scale, I don't know if the police service would have that kind of capacity and other resources to be able to deploy like the way they did. But it was a good thing that Akwatia just came and we finished Akwatia without some of these violent acts and behaviors that we've seen lately.
Okay. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, the NDC has 185 MPs in Parliament. Is this good or bad for democracy? In fact, they'll probably be getting they will be getting a 186 because we do know that Tamale Central is a given, isn't it?
It is bad for democracy. I think that too much power in the hands of one party, even if that party means well, it's not good for the democracy. I tend to think that a well-balanced parliament in which most of the time the government in power is not even very sure of winning. My favorite Ghanaian parliament was the one under Liman, in which the two parties were quite equal, almost equally balanced, and there was a time when a budget was rejected. So I tend to like balance because it keeps the government on its toes. So I think that MPP owes Ghanaians an urgent reorganization so it can become a credible, vibrant opposition and start winning by-elections that will bring the numbers of the NDC in Parliament down. That will be very good for the country.
So I guess that would end it here. And Prof. and Dr. Kennedy, if you can just stay on, the lawyers are going to start a conversation about our former Chief Justice Gertrude Tokone. And you're free to please stay on so that if you want to chip in something, we'll be more than happy to hear from you. But we have a break to take. This is less than 1 minute, and then when I come back, I'll introduce my next set of guests. Does that work with you, sir? Prof. and Doc?
Sure, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
So stay with us. This is Inside Pages on Metro Television.
Ebusiafo ye mama kwaba eba Children's Palace. Nkwala nyema nyina fie enye. Yonkwala ntade mani mema nyina ntare nyina wase. Yonkwala shoes, yonkwala duane, yonkwala wipes, yonkwala diapers, yonkwala toys, baby coat. In fact, bibia opama omanyina obenye biwa ase.
Located at East Legon Hills, Nana Chrome KFC. Contact us on 059 6377 172. Children's Palace. Happy children, happy fashion. See you soon. Bye bye.
Chia winning nara, we ding edge baby dapa. Media dear sonko cran ebremo. Now that what we animal would be an egg, Japan, a bremo. And no, any summer spices. Summer spices in here. And we wow, no bebreo. Various flavors. Ubenya a yako. Ubenya nemchi. You do good jollof woman and we get there. Ubenya ye do good quam. You do good for you. Hot, nako pebito. Na Emma with Gianni. And yet there. When you mean ya, you can your cocoa for eka.
Autant de communication ni o enjoy oduba that samu spices one in the essence no hi amiti gida dariaga samu spices ina sa abiti daddy so say samu spices mun samu
spices nyama chicken
samu spices
Nsaka in Ketwa, measure 10 grams. Yawa chicken, spaghetti, garlic and ginger, stew, and jollof, and the flavors of food will be brave.
Some spices, yes, Saka.
FDRJ jadien kratwe yatum.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again.
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late, of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. Go be the luckiest, go be from Georgia be luckiest, from not the cause she be luckiest. Me and you go be luckiest. No matter what you're luckiest, everybody go be that luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God down for boom. If you're poor, so would the coming of the son of man be. Hey! Is that his car?
Everywhere.
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
You've seen nothing yet. This Big Brother Naija Season 10. It's 10 times the drama, 10 times the rivalry, and 10 times the game. This is certified. No zero, no minus. Big Brother Naija Season 10. Showing 24/7 on DSTV and on GoTV. Gold sponsor, Guinness.
All right, so you're live on Inside Pages on Metro Television. My name is Audu Moro. We now look at another issue which became very, very topical in the course of the week, and it has to do with Ghana's Chief Justice, now former. I'm talking about Gertrude Araba Isabasaki Tokonu. She is no more than the Chief Justice of the Republic of Ghana, and it is because a committee which was formed to look into some allegations that were brought against her have recommended as such They say that she is not fit to be there as Ghana's Chief Justice because of a case of stated misbehavior. There's been quite a number of issues which have come up as a result of this. So we have some guests who have joined us this morning, and they would be weighing in on this matter and be giving us their perspective on this particular issue. So joining us this morning is Lawyer Bafo Ejebewa. Now, Lawyer Bafo Ejebewa is the MP for Menchia North, I believe. Is the MP for Menchia South, and also a private legal practitioner. Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for joining us on the show.
My brother, how are you doing?
Thank you. It's a pleasure to join us on Inside Pages. And
the name is Nana Eje Bafo Ewa.
Nana Eje Bafo Ewa. Wonderful. Wonderful.
And Beijia South is my constituency.
Absolutely. And I had to quickly correct it because I thought that was unacceptable. But anyway, so thank you very much for joining us on the show. And also joining us to talk about this issue is Randolph Chumesiankra. He's a private legal practitioner as well. So basically he's a lawyer, but he's also the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation. That's GIADEC. Good morning. Counsel, thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's been a while. Yeah, you've been very busy. Seven mother Ghana. Anyway, your microphone is actually off, so if you please put it back on. Yes.
Good morning, Mauro.
Yes. Good. It's been a while. Good to see you. Anyway, so I'll start with lawyer Nana Eje Bafo Ewa. What do you have against the removal of the Chief Justice?
Good morning to you, my brother. Good morning to my fellow panelists, and my regards, to my brother Chumesi. It's been a while. Now he's a big man. I hardly hear from him. So, my brother, with the greatest of respect, we need to put this on record. I don't think that Article 146 is a provision of the Constitution that was put there in a vacuum. It was meant to serve a purpose, i.e., the framers of our Constitution anticipated a time where Superior Court judges or the Chief Justice may give cause for their removal. And so it's very important we put it on record that it is not that we are against the removal of a judge or the removal of a Chief Justice. But in this particular instance, in my humble view, it was a clear case of a preconceived agenda hidden under the guise of Article 146, predetermined long before the NDC came into power. You cannot look at it without the context of conversations that were had before, conversations or pronouncements that were had before the NDC came into office. You cannot look at it in isolation. And this is public knowledge. And so it becomes very difficult for you to see it as a genuine exercise. It's a matter of public knowledge. Even children know. Everybody knows that this was a clear agenda. And I can understand where they are coming from. The NDC has always thought that the judiciary has been against them from 1993, from the decisions of the Supreme Court in cases like the 31st December case, and so on and so forth. They have always thought that the judiciary is against them, right? To the era of President Kufuor, where the likes of Mr. Chatuchikata and so on and so forth, right, went through prosecutions in our courts. So it becomes, if you are very conversant with the history of Ghana, especially the constitutional and political history, right, culminating in certain comments which they made, then it becomes difficult for you to isolate what has happened from a clear political agenda. If you look at the process itself, the NDC wants everybody to believe that, yes, the Constitution has made provision for the removal of the Chief Justice under Article 146. Article 146 has been followed through the spirit or to the letter, and so there is nothing wrong. Whoever tells you that, very respectfully, is not adverting his mind to the Constitution very well. Article 146 is not in isolation. Article 146 incorporates other provisions of the Constitution and our laws by implication. I'll give you an example. Article 146, right, 1, makes provision for the grounds for the removal of the Chief Justice and other Superior Court judges. And we have highlighted all the flaws along the way. One of the flaws we highlighted was the failure on the part of the President and the Council of State to disclose to the Chief Justice the part of the petition that a prima facie case determination was made upon. And sadly, on the 22nd of April this year, 2025, a senior member of the NDC, sat on radio, Asempa FM, their flagship program called Ecosystem, and stated there that it was not on all of the complaints that the prima facie determination was made on. He stated it, and it's also public knowledge. And so when the Chief Justice comes out to say that the part of the petition that constituted a prima facie case was not made known to her, that, in our view, constituted a grave injustice. And I'll explain to you why. In the absence of the prima facie determination, the constitution of the committee wouldn't have been necessary. The committee was therefore constituted simply because the President established the prima facie case. And so, if you have established the prima facie case in respect of the 3 petitions, make it known to me, or the Chief Justice, the public, make it known to all of us that a prima facie case has been established in respect of part of the petition or all of the petitions, right, or all the complaints contained in the petition. When that is not done, and you hear senior members of the government sit on radio and say that not every part of the petition was the prima facie determination made, and the Chief Justice comes out to say that she doesn't know which part of the petition that the prima facie determination was made, the letter which was sent to her didn't contain that. Government did not come out to rebut it. So in going into the hearing, what was she going to respond to? When I ask the question, what was she going to respond to? People might not appreciate it. You appreciate it when, very respectfully, you consider the effects of prima facie determination under the Evidence Act. If you look at Section 19, Section 20, Section 21 of the Evidence Act, you come to understand the effect of prima facie determination. When a prima facie case is determined in respect of an allegation made against you, the law says that it constitutes a rebuttable presumption. The effect is that you need to lead evidence to demonstrate that the fact does not exist. The fact, which is the allegations made against you. Now, the allegations are no longer mere allegations. They have become a fact. And that fact will become an established fact unless you lead evidence to establish that they don't exist. And so if you don't tell me, how do I lead evidence to demonstrate the non-existence of that fact? That is one grave injustice the Chief Justice faced. Grave injustice. And that is why I also say that those who are fixated with Article 146 fail to appreciate the spirit and letter of it. It incorporates by implication other provisions of our laws by reason of certain references made in there. The second point was the suspension of the Chief Justice, which in my view, very respectfully, was also unfair because it was arbitrary, right? The third point had to do with the hearing itself. The president constituted a committee to look at three petitions. Now, the committee says that it is done with one petition, one of the petitions, and it is submitting its reports to the president. Now, are we going to have the same petition committee look at the two petitions, or because of their findings, the two other petitions have become redundant? Right? The third point had to do, you see, again, people say Article 146 was followed. The third point had to do with the failure of the institutions which are supposed to ensure justice in this matter. Article 146, again, I repeat, is not in isolation. It's not in isolation because it's part of a gamut of laws meant to ensure, right, fairness. Why do I say so? The moment Article 146 involves a hearing, then the rules of natural justice, which is enshrined in Article 23, Article 279, Article 296, and other provisions of the Constitution are also relevant. The Chief Justice, the removed Chief Justice, in the course of the proceedings, stated that her human rights were being breached. She went to the Human Rights Court, and the Human Rights Court said they didn't have jurisdiction. That, for me, is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. Article 33 of the Constitution is clear. It is without limitation. It is without limitation. Article 33 is clear to the extent that in the even if you seek redress in another forum, you can still go to the Human Rights Court and complain of breaches of human rights. Indeed, our courts will not treat two different suits, right, because of Article 33, right, in relation to a matter where a writ has been issued in a different court, and then an originating motion has been issued in the Human Rights Court to seek redress in respect of a human rights matter to be an abuse of court process because of the wording of Article 33. The Chief Justice went there and she was told that the Human Rights Court does not have jurisdiction over a human rights matter. You can say that it is of no merit, but to say that you don't have jurisdiction is the most unjust and unconstitutional statement any court of the land can make. And so the Chief Justice did not receive justice in this matter. There was no fair hearing. She has been removed under the guise of an Article 146 proceedings. But there was no justice. Article 146 was not followed in the spirit. They were trying to tick the boxes. That is all they did. They tried ticking the boxes. In fact, look at the charges that were laid against the Chief Justice. That because she assigned or transferred a matter to a different judge. That is a basis for investigating the Chief Justice for exercising her administrative powers under the Courts Act. And you see, I'm removing the Chief Justice because of that. Now, for me, let's even look at the allegations of financial impropriety. Then almost every member of this government ought to resign. Is it not the members of this government that receive double salary whilst they were in power between 2013 and 2017? They received double salary. The Attorney General, and I stand to be corrected at the time, was also part of them. Almost everybody in this government received double salary. And they are the people who are holding the Chief Justice to a certain standard. In any event, the Chief Justice, did she pay herself? She requisitioned payment, and there's a procedure for payment. If she was not entitled to it, why was she given the money? If she was not entitled to it, why was she given the money? What happened to the internal audit system? What is happening to all those people who paid her the money which she was not entitled to? This is a complete witch hunt. Complete witch hunt. And so, I think that the dust is settled. Nothing is going to change. It's a clear effort to complete what was preconceived by the government whilst it was in opposition. I just hope that this does not continue, because it will not augur well for our constitution. We need to prevent this. Look, we must avoid things being centered around us politicians. It shouldn't be the interest of the politician, but the interest of the nation. The sad thing is that our judiciary is now naked. Because, look, I cited some examples this week. The acting Chief Justice, when he was traveling, wrote a letter and said another justice of the Supreme Court should act whilst he's away. The Constitution determines who acts in the absence of the Chief Justice. Tomorrow, somebody may come and tell you that the approach you took was wrong, it was unconstitutional, and that is a basis for your removal. What are you going to do? You see, so my brother, this is my humble view. Right. I think this should not have happened. Okay. Let's now look at reforming our judiciary. Right. If you're unhappy with how things have gone in the past, I have always been of the school of thought that there's the need for reform in our judiciary. There's a serious need for reforms. Everyone that practices in our courts knows that the time has come for serious reforms. One, in the manner in which our judges are appointed. In my humble view, we need to insulate the executive from it. Okay. The interference is too much, and it allows some of our judges to take advantage of the situation. All right. We need to also look at removing the judicial power, the removal of the Superior Court judges. We need to remove the hands of the executive also from it. Okay. We need a gamut of regulations that will spell out, for instance, and define what amounts, for instance, to stated misbehavior to reduce the abuse. Okay. We need a regulation that will also spell out the circumstance under which the Chief Justice will be suspended in the course of such proceedings.
Okay.
We need serious reforms.
All right.
Serious reforms. The quality of our judges are coming down. And I am afraid with this, we are likely to see worse things happen.
All right.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so
I
very
need
much.
to dash off.
All right. I know you have some other engagements to attend to. So that's Nana J. Bafwewa. He's MP for Minsha South and is a private legal practitioner. Please stay with us. This is Inside Pages. Don't go anywhere.
Manager. Of course, I accept only quality and affordable printed souvenirs for my promotional campaigns.
I'm the head of academic affairs of a very important institution in Ghana. Of course, we only deal with quality, reliable printing companies for our institution's printing materials. I'm talking about appointed time printing.
Appointed Time Printings. We take pride in our extensive print scope that transform your ideas into captivating visual masterpieces. We delve into the core objectives and vision of each print project. Precision printing is at the heart of our printing process as we meet your tight deadlines. Our rigorous inspection, color verification, and overall printing excellence are assured. 20 years of printing excellence. It's always a pleasure working with you to create a vibrant, dazzling printing experience that gives you a masterpiece. Appointed Time Printing, your world of quality and affordable printing.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Akwatia. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late? Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Go be from Georgia, be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter why you're lucky. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God up boom. If you put it toye, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Sister, me dad, dear Betsy, Biana, me, I'm Shishimi. I could eat that. Me, many tears, some of them in Sakana, say, me made us with it. Sika, sit there to the moon. Judicial moon. Baggy the Hodia. Never be free. So, what you say bag number? One number to show. Wow.
That's a minute from you, Banana Solio.
Hey!
You're live on Inside Pages on the Metro Television. I'm here with Rindolph Chimisuankra, who's a private legal practitioner. Earlier we had Nana Bafwewa, who is also MP for Minsha South and also a private legal practitioner. Now, for some reason, Rindolph, the NPP has insisted consistently that they will not accept any explanation that this whole act of removing the Chief Justice was not something that was planned by the NDC. They believe, and as you heard from Bafwewa, that you did this deliberately. This is political trial. This is not a legal trial. Convince us why what the NPP is saying is not true. Okay, sorry, your mic is off. Yes, sir. Yes.
I need not convince anybody in the NPP that what they are saying is true or false.
Why not?
The fundamental question we need to ask ourselves is, whether or not there were legitimate basis for the removal of the Chief Justice. That is, for me, the only question that needs to be asked. Okay. As we speak, the MPP has not been able to demonstrate anywhere that any member of the NDC or the NDC as a party filed a petition for the removal of the Chief Justice. The basis or the foundation for which the petitions were filed are all acts that took place before the NDC took office. We are not aware of when these people the petitioners became aware of the facts and what they were waiting for, or why they decided to file the petitions under an NDC regime. Maybe they felt more comfortable. They didn't believe that the MPP would treat the petitions with all seriousness as required, so they wanted a change in government to commence their action for the removal of the Chief Justice. Having made that point, Moro, let me start my submission on whether or not there were legitimate grounds for the removal of the Chief Justice by quoting a statement from the Supreme Court, of which the Chief Justice until recently was the president of, in the case of A.J. Chum. And this is very fundamental. And this is what the Supreme Court said. In our notion of the judiciary as an instrument of justice, if our notion of the judiciary as an instrument of justice is to endure, then the Chief Justice, who is the head of this institution, should not, emphasis on should not, be seen to be manipulating the justice system by any overt or covert acts of his by willfully promoting the prostitution or corruption of the system through meddlesome interference. I would want to end here and then start the conversation by inviting all of us to consider whether the Chief Justice, now removed, at any point in time, through meddlesome interference, undermined the administration of justice. I do not even want to go into the financial misappropriation and other things, because they go without saying. Right. Because people suffer for less. And once there's a breach of statute, the standard has been set. In the Charlotte Otey case, she was removed for breach of procurement laws, not because she has embezzled funds or she has done anything untoward, but because she failed to comply with procurement obligations. Right. So are we saying that in the case of the Chief Justice, if there are statutes or obligations imposed upon her that she has violated or breached, we should excuse her? Is that what my learned friend Bafo and the MPP are saying?
What they're saying is that in the case of the expenses that she incurred in going to Tanzania and United States of America, mention one law that she's breached, for which reason she has to go.
In fact, if you have had the benefit of looking at the publication from the Executive Secretary, the Secretary to the President, one of the findings of the Committee on the Financial Issue was that the Chief Justice engaged in a reckless and avoidable misappropriation of public funds. Okay. Now the question is, the travel policy, which forms the basis of that particular petition, states clearly two categories of travels. One is supposed to be funded by public funds, and one is supposed to be funded to a certain extent. Personal travels of the Chief Justice are supposed to be funded to the extent that it only covers the Chief Justice. In this case, the Chief Justice, her daughter, her husband went on a holiday, and the state bore the cost of that. Are we saying that every public officer has that privilege, or that should be excused? Moro, you should understand
Blame those who made those funds available to me, and not me. I didn't request for them. I was told that, look, take this money, spend it as you wish. Why do you fault me for that? I mean, I'm not the chief spending officer as the head of the judiciary.
That is inaccurate. Okay. As the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice is the chief spending officer.
Not the judicial secretary?
No. The Chief Justice is the head of the entity. Okay. The head of the entity is the chief spending officer.
So she determines for herself.
So who determines
how much money she's entitled to?
Exactly. So whether she's a signatory to it or not, it's not an issue. Okay. She's the chief spending officer of that covered entity. All right. Now, having made the point, let's go into some of the issues or the basis for her removal.
So you were talking about manipulation of the chief.
Yes, manipulation of the system.
You don't want to talk about the expenses.
I don't even want to go in there because that is straightforward.
All right.
Now let's look at the issues that people are not paying attention to. As a Chief Justice, you embody the justice system of the country. You represent our judiciary, and you dispense justice on behalf of the people of Ghana. Now, when an ordinary Ghanaian violates a court order, it comes with consequences. Right. You may end up in jail. You may be cited for contempt and so many other things. And you think that when the Chief Justice engages in acts, flagrant violations or breaches of disrespect or contempt for court orders, that should be excused. The one who is supposed to encourage and ensure respect for rule of law cannot be seen to be encouraging or leading the charge for disrespecting laws. Now, in one of the petitions or one of the grounds, the Court of Appeal made an order reinstating a lawyer or suspending an order from the General Legal Counsel preventing a lawyer from practicing while investigations were ongoing. The Chief Justice, through an administrative fiat, issued a notice to all judges that any order that they give in any matter concerning that lawyer is void. That is not the place for a Chief Justice.
She did that?
She issued a directive.
You have evidence to that?
My brother, I will not talk about things that are not. I wish you had the benefit of the proceedings and some of the things that are the grounds of the petition.
Well,
she actually, and the lawyer involved, and it was a very popular case among lawyers, Fosuji Abo.
Okay.
And we also saw the circular on the notice boards of the Judicial, the court's premises. Right. The Chief Justice actually issued a notice that any court who sits and issues a directive accept on any application filed by the lawyer challenging his suspension by the General Legal Counsel, that order you give will be void.
Oh.
I am a lawyer. The learning has been that even if a court issues a wrong or void order, that order must be complied until it is set aside by a court of competent jurisdiction. That power is not for the Chief Justice. You don't agree that a judge sitting in the High Court who has received a circular like this from the Chief Justice, his right to independent of thought and thinking has been interfered with?
Right.
You don't agree? I'm asking you.
Well, just go ahead, please.
And you don't think that in such a case, the Chief Justice has undermined or interfered with the independence of the judiciary?
Right. By that singular act, you mean?
By that singular act. And you don't think that in such a case, the Chief Justice has demonstrated disrespect for the very judicial service he represents? So, Moro, let us not trivialize the issues. Because Article 71 creates a certain category of officers, including that of the Chief Justice. These officers are given a special place of pride in our society. And that place of pride comes with certain privileges that not every Ghanaian is entitled to. And let me quote the Latin maxim, which states that to whom much is given, much is expected. So if the Chief Justice is given so many privileges by the state, then the state expects a certain degree of uprightness from the Chief Justice. You cannot be seen. The Caesar's wife must be above reproach. You cannot be seen to be doing things that we, the ordinary people, are doing because you occupy a certain position of trust. In another case, a court of appeal gave an order for someone who has been unjustifiably suspended by the Chief Justice to be reinstated. She refused.
And what was her reason?
She's a Chief Justice. She refused and then went ahead to transfer the person, that's Francis Baden, to another district or judicial district, completely assigned the person different roles, going contrary to the directives given by the committee that she herself set up. You don't think that constitutes interference?
Are you suggesting that the Chief Justice doesn't have the right to do that?
She has no right to do that. Don't forget that.
Or immorality?
Moro, don't forget. The Chief Justice occupies an office which is a creature of the Constitution.
Right.
The Constitution outlines procedures and practices for how things are supposed to be done. The Chief Justice should be the first person championing compliance with those practices and procedures.
Okay.
So if the Chief Justice is going astray, how can you whip the followers in line? I don't know if you get where I'm
I understand you.
Now, there's also one of the cases. Every lawyer will tell you that when judgment is given in a case, there is an execution process that you follow to get or to make sure that your judgment is secured. In Kaswa of Falco District Court, orders were given by the court after judgment. Execution took place. Properties were attached in execution. The Chief Justice called the registrar of the court to her office and directed him, to discharge the properties that were attached from execution and return it back to the judgment debtor. How? Is that not an interference of the judicial processes? Are you not undermining the very justice you represent? There are practices and procedures for how things are supposed to be done. So when I hear my friends in the MPP going, oh, these are trivial, they are not trivial. If a Chief Justice can interfere with the due process of law, you think that is something that can be excused?
Were all these issues heard by the committee, per your knowledge?
Everything was part of the committee. In fact, one of the petitions had 21 grounds. Out of the 21 grounds, about 19 of them were on stated misbehavior. And just 4 of them were on incompetence. Stated misbehavior clearly falls within this. If the Chief Justice, being oblivious of the law, goes ahead to tell us that when property is attached in execution, regardless of the legal processes you can go through, to remove it from execution or attachment, directed the court registrar to discharge the property and return it to the judgment debtor. I mean, who does that in a democracy?
That's fine. So, but all of these, all of the things you're saying has to do with one of the petitions, right?
Yes.
And as you rightly said, one of the petitions has about 21 allegations or so. But there are also other petitions, 2 of them. That's the Shining Stars and that of Ayamga. Why do you think that the committee did not take the other petitions into consideration so you can have a fuller picture of what exactly the issues against the Chief Justice are before a conclusion is reached? Why did they rush the decision? I mean, some have suggested or some have asked. Okay. Your microphone, sorry, is off.
The decision was not rushed. Mm-hmm. In May 2025,
yes,
when the committee began its hearing, it made it very clear to the Chief Justice, now removed, the lawyers, and all parties in the proceedings, that they were going to hear the petitions together. Each petitioner would give its evidence. In law, there's something that we call consolidation.
Okay.
You can consolidate here by write different judgments for each.
Right.
They have heard it as composites, and they've come up with the first judgment for one. And in their view, this is the findings on the first one, if they've made their recommendations. Technically speaking, it renders even the judgment for the rest or the findings for the rest moot.
Okay.
Because if they cannot recommend anything contrary to what they have done now, because they've already recommended that she be removed from office.
Okay.
And if the person has been removed from office, what do we need the other findings for?
All right. Now, Professor Osako, in just a minute, if you can do this. Prof, are you there? Oh, okay. Professor Osako is not there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
Hello, Prof.
Can you hear me?
Yes. You have written an article, and long and short of it is you've identified the fault lines in Article 146. But look, the MPP have made it very clear that someday when they come to power, they remove they remove some judges that they suspect are affiliated to the NDC, and for them, this is a bad precedent. I mean, how do we prevent this from happening if indeed what they're saying is something we need to take very seriously?
So that's where I suggest in my article that a partisan response in terms of how we go forward, in my opinion, would not augur well for Ghana's democracy. I mean, can you imagine every turnover election and changing the composition because one believes that the person or persons in there are not sympathizers of my party for an independent constitutional body like the Supreme Court? For me, I still go back to the fault lines of 146. Rightly or wrongly, we have an opportunity as these, and we have 2 high-profile cases that provides a guide for us in terms of how we can fix 146. I know that some of the MPP voices do not like the comparison between this case and the case of the removal of Madam Saloto Say. But I think those 2 high-profile cases provides us with some guidelines on rethinking 146 identifying the key fault lines and how we tighten and fix those things in moving forward. For me, that is the place where we start to address this headache. I agree with what the Honorable from who left the show, I think it's Nana PJ, when he said, look, we need to give some more clarity to what stated misbehavior is, even if we need to come up with a list of infractions and the appropriate sanctions for those infractions in terms of additional regulations, all of those things. I think that, for me, is a more productive and healthy approach in dealing with this issue than partisan threats of, because you have done this, we will also do the same in the future.
Okay. Prof, thank you very much for your time. It's always a pleasure talking to you, sir. So I'll give the next 1 minute to you because our time is up. The MCR will take us off if we don't wrap up. Yes, in conclusion.
Mr. Morrow, let me just make this point.
Okay.
I have heard a lot of people say that we need to set modalities, the threshold for the removal of the Chief Justice is too low.
Yeah, I think it's too loose. It's too easy to
I
remove
don't
the
think
Chief
it
Justice.
is.
Okay.
Like I indicated, the Chief Justice occupies a special place of pride. And in my thinking, such a person should always bear in mind that you have been accorded a place of privilege. Therefore, you must be measured in every step you take. Ensure that whatever it is you are doing is right in the eyes of the law and represents the interests of the people of Ghana. I don't know, maybe the MPP is happy or they are fighting over and claiming that it is the bases are weak because possibly they are the beneficiaries of the manipulation of the judicial system. Because if you have the benefit of the petitions that went to the committee, these are clear and manifest manipulations. The Bedin case, the Castle of Akwatia case, and so many of them.
All right.
There's unnecessary transfers. And my friend Bafo made a point that CJ has an administrative right to transfer cases. But if it is being done with the aim to secure a particular outcome, that is undermining the justice system. And CJ should not be seen to be doing that.
All right. A prominent figure within the New Patriotic Party, Francis CM, sends a message. She says, Moro, hi, Moro. Chume Siankra is doing legal fishing and basic political unfounded argument. Where is the evidence? Hearsay will not do it at all. The government's action has defied all legal remedies. Frances Irabuna is here. All right, thank you very much for your time. Frances, it's nice hearing from you. It's been a while. Anyway,
I'm speaking to record of proceedings.
Aha, okay. It's just Rick, he's speaking to record of proceedings. Anyway, thanks for watching Inside Pages. Our health show at 10 o'clock is coming up. Please stay with us.
What is self-care to you? Do you know to have a productive life means to take care of your well-being?
If you want to be healthy, you are not waiting to be sick before you treat a disease.